Ever heard the saying, amateurs talk strategy, professionals talk logistics? Well, in the summer of 1944, after the D-Day landings, the Allied forces were learning this lesson the hard way. They were blitzing across France, faster than anyone imagined. But this incredible speed created a colossal problem. The front lines were moving so fast that their supply lines couldn't keep up. Soldiers were running out of everything. Bullets, fuel, food, medicine. The advance was about to grind to a halt, not because of enemy resistance, but because their trucks were literally falling apart. Imagine this. You're in the middle of the most important military campaign in modern history. You have the momentum. You're pushing the enemy back. But your supply trucks are breaking down faster than you can fix them. Standard military trucks were buckling under the pressure. They were overloaded, driven 24/7 on bombed-out roads. And they just weren't built for this kind of relentless punishment. Axles were snapping, engines were overheating, and transmissions were failing. For every 2 trucks that made it to the front, 1 was left broken on the side of the road. The situation was dire. The entire liberation of Europe was hanging by a thread. This is where our story takes a fascinating turn. It's not about a general or a famous inventor. It's about an unsung hero, a mechanic whose name has been largely lost to history, but whose ingenuity changed the course of the war. Let's call him Mac. A nod to the countless grease-stained mechanics who kept the army moving. Mac wasn't a desk-bound engineer. He was a hands-on problem solver. He saw the broken-down trucks lining the roads and knew the standard issue designs weren't cutting it. He knew a better solution was needed and fast. Mac had an idea that, on the surface, seemed completely backwards to the military brass. For years, he'd been tinkering with a civilian truck design. It was a rugged, no-frills workhorse, built for hauling heavy loads over rough terrain on American farms and construction sites to the Army's procurement officers. It looked worthless. It lacked the specialized features and standardized parts of military vehicles. It was too simple to ... civilian. They dismissed it out of hand, but Mac saw its hidden strength. Simplicity was its superpower. This civilian truck was designed for one thing: durability. It had a stronger frame, a more robust suspension, and an engine that was easier to cool and, crucially, easier to fix. While military trucks required specialized tools and parts that were in short supply, Mac's truck could be patched up with more common components. It was built to be abused and repaired quickly by someone with a basic wrench set, not a team of specialized engineers. He pleaded his case, arguing that in this crisis, reliability was more important than military specifications. He knew this worthless truck was the answer. Facing a logistical nightmare, with the advance completely stalled, a desperate General Patton finally gave the green light. It was a gamble. They rounded up every available truck of this type from depots in England, and even commandeered some from civilian companies back in the States. This makeshift fleet of worthless trucks formed the backbone of a new, high-speed supply route. They called it the Red Ball Express. The name came from a railroad term for priority shipments, marked with a red ball for express. And express it was. The Red Ball Express was a marvel of organization and sheer grit. It was a one-way loop of roads stretching for hundreds of miles, reserved exclusively for supply trucks, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. To drive these trucks, the Army turned to one of its most overlooked assets: African-American soldiers. At a time when the military was still segregated, these men, who were often relegated to non-combat roles, were suddenly thrust into one of the most critical missions of the war. They became the lifeblood of the Allied advance. These drivers faced incredible dangers. They drove with lights off at night to avoid German aircraft, navigated roads littered with mines, and were constant targets for enemy snipers and ambushes. They drove 4 days on end, fueled by coffee and sheer determination, often with little to no sleep. They weren't just truck drivers. They were heroes, pushing their vehicles and themselves to the absolute limit. And the trucks Mac had championed, they performed flawlessly. They hauled more, broke down less, and were back on the road faster than any of the standard military vehicles. The numbers are staggering. In its 82 days of operation, the Red Ball Express delivered over 412,000 tons of supplies to the front line. That's gasoline, ammunition, food, and medical supplies. Everything needed to sustain the fight. It allowed Patton's Third Army to race across France and into Germany. Without the Red Ball Express, the war in Europe could have dragged on for months or even years longer. And it was all made possible by that worthless civilian truck design and the incredible drivers who operated them. This story is a powerful reminder that innovation doesn't always come from a high-tech lab. Sometimes it comes from a mechanic with dirty hands and a deep understanding of the real-world problem. It shows that the simplest solution is often the most effective. The legacy of the Red Ball Express isn't just about trucks and logistics. It's a testament to human ingenuity, perseverance, and the unsung heroes who do the essential work far from the spotlight. They were the lifeline that fueled the victory. So the next time you see a big rig thundering down the highway, take a moment to remember the Red Ball Express. Remember the drivers who risked everything and the mechanic whose simple, worthless idea helped save the world. It's a piece of history that deserves to be told. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more hidden histories. We love digging into these incredible tailies, and your support makes it all possible. See you in the next one.